morning, Ben. Afternoon to you, being in LA in America.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, likewise. So pretty much, where we wanted to start off by just letting you know that we wanted to interview purely because of the information we started to pick up after we started to research about you. We started to realise how much of a hard worker you have been through your whole career, your journeys that you've faced, and the paths that you created through your music and through the personal side of outside of playing music. And how we came across that was from the Big Sound panel that you did, and also your documentary that came out. Can you just start off by telling us where you are now with your new album and things from there?
Yeah, where I'm at physically, or what's going on? You mean what's happening?
Okay, well, physically could be a good point.
Yeah, what's going on? So I've got a record that Sorry, I just hear my 3-year-old crying about something while she's making a pie with my wife. Yeah, where I'm at right now is I'm getting ready to put out a record in March called Ayahuasca, Welcome to the Work. And the way that I've basically done this whole record through Pledge Music. So it's a sort of a crowdfunding thing. And because the subject matter, not to mention the actual music, this is a fringe concern, but this covers a sort of universal themes. But I guess for me, it's important that this record, the question has been, how do I get it into the right hands of the people that are going to be interested in the subject matter? Because it's not a record that's designed for the radio or anything like that. So I basically have used Pledge to kind of raise the money to get it, to hire the promotion team and get all the marketing done for the record. So I'm just kind of leading up to that, basically. And
did you reach your goal through the Pledge? Did you?
Yeah, and beyond. I mean, I understood that with these kind of things, it's important to be a little conservative because, if you don't get 100% with these crowdfunding things, you get none of it. So, it's important not to set a goal that's too extreme that you won't reach it. But at the same time, there were things I needed to do just to hire the right type of publicist and to get the marketing done, and then to be able to shoot some videos and fly around to talk about this record or perform it. There was an X amount I needed to reach. So yeah, it's been really good. But I think even more than that, because this type of record, is predominantly it's an exercise in consciousness. It was about connecting it with the people that it would resonate with, and the Pledge campaign was a chance to begin doing that even before the record comes out. Most records, it's hard to get level of awareness about, but the Pledge thing gave me sort of a reason to be able to begin connecting with people, I suppose. So it's
more
been
encouragement further,
and just to sort of actually make a connection with people and different communities or different, whether it's you guys. I mean, I did Big Sound right now, but they've asked me to do it for a few years, but this felt like the right time to do it before this record came out. So all of these things have kind of been about creating an awareness of people that are in resonance with what the goals are of this. So it's just been an opportunity to do that. So it's been pretty exciting experiment.
Okay, all right. So for the people who don't know what ayahuasca is, it's an Amazon vine or a type of brew that they make through their culture and through certain churches. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a mixture. They call the ayahuasca medicine is generally a mixture between the vine and the root from the same plant.
Okay.
And it's used. It's a entheogen, a psychoactive plant. So, but it's a very interesting discussion of what creates the power of working with this medicine. And there are a lot of people who think that the ceremonial use of it itself is part of what creates the intention to have this profound type of inner experience with it. And that a lot of, what we call recreational drug use in our world, is really the result of the urge to explore the mind that's been robbed of all ritual and spirituality and sanctity. So it's partly about this tradition still being intact.
Mm.
It does something where it kind of creates an opportunity. Sorry, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's hard to put the finger on exactly what's the active component in why ayahuasca does seem to be such a powerful experience for people. And one of it is that it's used ceremonially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what, in your travels and your experiences with it, can you tell us a little bit about how that was? About how that changed you?
Yeah. Well, I'm somebody that's done a fair amount of experimentation, exploration in different spiritual and psychological modules, whether it was like dream therapy or mantra and meditation and being India and everything. And so I was reasonably well versed in what it feels like to make contact with what Jung would call your unconscious.
Okay.
There are certain modules, esoteric science, whether it's a mantra or yoga or meditation, that actually do put you in contact with a side of yourself that's very hard to access through regular, ordinary states of consciousness.
Yeah.
And the very beginning of the first ceremony I attended with ayahuasca, I felt a very profound sense of awe, humility, surprise, terror, anxiety, joy, feelings that to me are the hallmark of making contact with this kind of larger side of our psyche. It's the specifics of each experience that I've had with it. I go into it, but it's in a way it's not as interesting because everybody has a completely unique experience with ayahuasca, as much as they do with meditation. It really manages to it's almost like a mirror where it seems to hold up a reflector to buried parts of our consciousness. And, if we're brave, asks us to integrate and confront some uncomfortable truths that are hidden within what we are. So I've just found it to be, it's full of surprise. There seems to be, it's kind of like dreams. There's no way you can go to bed and anticipate what you're going to dream that night. It's just impossible. Like the nature of our consciousness, it's so limited that we could never quite face the infinite possibilities that the unconscious mind can bring forth. And ayahuasca is much the same. Anyone who thinks they are in control of it or understand it or can anticipate it, they're mistaken. Because the nature of these sides of consciousnesses is they're out of our control and we're actually not aware of them until we get to experience them.
All right. Did you have the experience before you decided to write this album, or was this part of the journey of about hearing about it and then knowing that you were going to write an album, or?
Yeah, the medicine is something I've been working with over the last few years, and it's semi-regular intervals, and I developed such a feeling of gratitude and respect for the medicine that, I can only liken it to most of my records in a sense have been albums of love songs. And, I wanted to write love songs for this medicine, as it was as a woman or as a guru or as, anything I've experienced, that sense of truly surrendering yourself with just, wow, look at this thing, contemplate it, this is amazing. That's the nature of all love songs in my mind. So I wrote about it, and I wanted to write about it in this quite a similar way. And my friend Jessica Chapney Khan, who plays under the name Apollonia, and I've made a lot of music with, she'd also been working with a medicine in a similar context, and I said to her on the phone one day, I said, I'm so amazed by this process. I want to write songs for it. And she said, me too. And then we got together the following week and we started writing music. So that was really the genesis of the album.
Yeah, wow. So, for you, it's been a bit of an interesting thing for myself personally to sort of look at after watching the Big Sound thing, as LJ said before, the panel, and then we watched your doco and sort of began to sort of put the pieces together, I suppose, of how you come to that spiritual path. But you've gone through the full experience. I mean, straight through the middle of the music industry, all the way through the arias and been across the world, and you've had the hit songs. It's all happened. And from myself looking, from an independent Australian artist's point of view, I sort of grew up with a little bit of that sort of spiritual information in my family. So it's almost been something that's been ingrained in what I've felt about my music, and that, or it's been a way of me connecting to it as well. Was there a point for you, Ben, that I mean, amidst the career and everything that goes on, that you sort of decided you wanted to get more in touch with yourself, or has that been a part of you that's always been there, through it all?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the things that have become more overt in my exploration began much more subtly, but were always there, in the sense that, my attraction to punk music and underground music and outside art, always stemmed from a belief I had in authenticity and in being open-hearted, that I wanted to make music that expressed where I really was, not music that was about where sort of the mainstream said I should be at. So that is a spiritual idea. I wouldn't have called it that when I was 14 years old, but I think what I loved about Nirvana when they came out, and the Velvet Underground and the Hard-Ons and, whatever bands I was into, was that they were being true to their vision of what the world was like. And as I've grown up and understood more about art and spirituality, I've seen how that's a basic tenet of spirituality, to be authentic and to be true where you are. So all this is my way of saying I wouldn't have identified it as spiritual, but that was always there. And then I was always, I was very interested in energy, and I suppose my interest in fame and power in that sense was really about energy, which was about what does it mean and what's the potential of standing at one space in time on stage and having people watch you, and what can you make them feel, and what can you feel, and in what ways can you influence each other, so all of this stuff, again, in a more subtle way, was connected. But then when I was about 25, I made my first trip to India, and my interest in sort of esoteric and spiritual side of things had been growing increasingly over the years. But then in 2004 or 2003, whenever it was, when I first went to India and met Narayani Amma, that was the major shift for me, in the sense that my life really turned upside down, and I realized that this thing that had sort of been a side interest of mine was coming center stage. But then continually since then, it's also kept evolving. So I think sometimes in our lives we go through these major transformations at different points, but then there are subtle transformations happening all the time as well.
Yeah, and you do talk a lot about consciousness as a whole on a subject, and that's something that both our band as well has been really trying to investigate, and I suppose be part of the raising of that consciousness for people in society today. So do you have any particular goal or way of seeing that we can, as musical people and as musical souls, how we can help to raise that awareness and consciousness with people? I mean, obviously in the same formats as writing the albums and doing that, but there's something direct about a message and putting that forward, I guess, in the music industry today compared to, I don't know, 20 years ago, that has changed a bit, you know, because it gets this feeling of, you know, you try and have something with a bit of a message in it, and it gets seen as maybe a concept album or something that's left of field, because you're not conforming to exactly what, you know, pop demands or what your genre demands, or, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, personally, I'm less than ever concerned with what the industry or what any corporate entities think I should be doing. I mean, the stakes feel much bigger to me, and I'm concerned with my own personal sense of integrity within a situation or within my career, and honoring, again, back to where I was full circle to where I was interested in at 14, which is the authenticity of my experience. And I can't say I have a goal specifically, except to be in my experience in the most authentic manner possible. And I do think that as an artist, you know, which is a form of leadership, you indirectly, by being authentically in your experience, which is being present, you are indirectly giving permission to your audience to do the same. And really, I just think the world needs people to be present and to feel and to actually be in a state of awareness about what's happening. It's not that there's one dogmatic, correct outlook on things. It's just, if we could just be present and actually use our minds and be intelligent and be aware of what's happening and take in new information as it arrives, I think we'd be in really pretty good shape. So that's really my goal. And then I suppose, you know, spiritually, I guess I'm reluctant to think about a specific goal, because I do see the job of the artist as being subservient to the will of higher consciousness, whether you think of that as God or nature or the muse or, you know, however you see it.
Yeah.
I don't really think an artist is at their best when they're doing their will. I think they're at their best when they're getting out of the way and allowing what's got to come through to come through.
Yeah.
So that's kind of day-to-day practice, just kind of getting out of the way and fulfilling the ideas that appear.
Okay, yeah. And I'm just going to move on a little bit and just ask you how the family's going. And now that you are a family man, have you grown immensely from having a newborn and marrying your love?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because I think probably like a lot of artists, you know, I have that selfish gene that thought, oh, is it going to take me away from my work? And am I going to... But my experience is just that becoming less selfish and becoming a parent has made me a better artist in much more profound ways, in that, you know, it's so clear how the message that I want to send my daughter is not find a way to make everybody happy and compromise and do a little bit of what you love and a lot of what other people want you to do. You know, I don't want to send those types of messages. I want to send messages about authenticity and courage and following her vision, whatever that is. So in a way, it's called me to be even more experimental, more, you know, more open, in a sense, more uncompromising, because I want to pass that message along to her.
Wow. See, that's a really good approach, is taking that vested interest straight away in the children in the future. And obviously that's where the love really begins, doesn't it? You know, like you can't...
Well, the beautiful thing, you know, about a spiritual practice, which, you know, from the sound of it, you guys have in some way, or, you know, is that it asks you to address the issues of being right here now. You know, like heaven, or whatever you want to call it, or a higher vibration, or connectedness, or unity, or, you know, these are not just ideas we need to talk about for the future. They're things we need to institute in our lives today. So the challenges that are in our lives today are the challenges that we have to face and we have to find solutions to. So for me, the question is, what can I do today to bring my family and me closer to a life that feels as full of potential as, I know that we're able to experience?
Yeah, that's it. I think for me that's nearly come down to about two things in my life at the moment, and that's probably, it was well quoted, is to learn something new about the world every day, and to always try and ease the suffering of other people, to extend yourself that way. And that's sort of, for the band's sake, we've taken it, as a really important part of us to try and spread a message, say something, we really...
Yeah, it's so important, because people don't realize that. I mean, everyone I know, it seems to be quite, spiritually ambitious in a sense. They want to open their minds and they want to go further. But, some people don't realize that you actually can't grow until you help other people grow. That they go together, that our minds are connected. Because, this whole "we are one" thing, this is not just a slogan on like Rastafarian t-shirts. Like, this is the reality. Like, we're all connected. And until we help each other's consciousness expand, our consciousness doesn't expand. And conversely, as we begin to do these more connected and integrated type things, we aid the expansion in other areas. We suddenly feel ourselves getting bigger and bigger, So I'm a real believer in that.
Yeah, that was really the driving reason, I think, why we wanted to interview you, Ben, is that pursuit of trying to raise consciousness and bring that forward, and bringing that forward in your music is in such a powerful way. It's a very freeing and liberating sort of thing to hear, coming from where we are here as well.
Yeah, but what's cool about what you guys are doing, is that I think what the little I know about you guys is that you're embracing the idea that a band is more than just a band in this modern world of the internet and social networking, and you're saying, oh, this is actually a platform where we can connect with others and share different outlooks, different modes of awareness and consciousness. It's not just about music. So even if your music is, traditional, like you can just play rock and roll and make people happy, you're also embracing that, you've also got these websites and these Facebook pages and Twitter, and maybe with that, maybe the music is just the doorway that people enter into, but then there's this whole other portal that they can learn more about the reality of the world or different realities.
Yeah, it's definitely where we come across, a lot of information to start with. And
well, I think it's important for a band nowadays to become more than just musicians.
Yeah,
it's important from a marketing perspective, but I think guys do. It's important at a human perspective. That there's an opportunity here that you guys are seeing, which is what's really cool.
Yeah. Well, we've been an independent band for a lot of years. I mean. And we've felt that, I don't know, we got to a point where we felt like we might have wanted to change that and accept some help, but I think we've gone the other way now. So I think we're pretty happy at the moment with the team we have and the way we run things, and the fact that we work together as a cohesive unit of people, without too much of that stuff. But we're really in purpose now of trying to move forward, trying to bring ourselves up to allow other people to hear what we have to say, and that's
getting rewarded.
Yeah, and it's really cool too that it involves community building. That's the great thing about being outside the mainstream in whatever area you're outside it, in that you're forced to form alliances with other people outside the mainstream because you have to find a way to exist. You're not supported by major corporations. So you end up being drawn together with other people with like minds, and you end up forming these really interesting webs of talent and of passion that can then become its own whole ecosystem of artistry and commerce. And that I think is really exciting too.
yeah, believing in that interconnectedness of people and seeing that chain is a hugely effective way of viewing reality. I believe it helps you to connect the dots and, you know, bridge the gap between the way people perceive things and how we can help each other as well.
Absolutely.
So, I guess one question I did want to ask you is, do you have any thoughts on the actual current state of the music industry at the moment that we all, you know, at some level are existing in? Well, allow me to recontext. Given that you've taken a step away from writing for other purposes other than, well, basically what you're wanting to say and your truth of your message and coming through a state of raising consciousness, how has your position changed from being inside that place of you know, as big and as chaotic and as crazy as that world can be, to being on the side of it that you are now, sort of just working on yourself, your spiritual experience, you know, and releasing your music the way you are? Has that changed for you?
It's complicated because the thing about fame and the mainstream is I'm not sure anyone ever feels like they're really in it.
Right.
Because even at the biggest levels, it's such a harshly competitive world, and you're always trying to get the next song on the radio, or, you know, you're being rejected for someone else. You know, even for, like, I don't know. Sorry, I'm just gonna sit down. Even for you know, a big artist like you know, Madonna, she finds out the radio's favoring Lady Gaga. Like, there are always levels once you get into that game in which you will feel like you're battling from the outside. So I guess that hasn't really changed, but my desire to be in is not really in my mind anymore. So that's the thing that's changed. So as far as the logistics go, I feel like, if I'm honest, I don't care. I'm not really interested in that battle anymore. I do think there's a lot of really, you know, music. You know, music is it's a tool, and most of the victories, you know, in the battles, they can't be weighed at the level that they appear to be. The outcomes seems to be, like, for instance, sorry, I know I'm being a bit convoluted, but I'm just thinking out loud. But since with this pledge campaign, the moment where, you know, almost 500 people who have pre-ordered the album and have been supportive of it, each of those 500 people, I feel a much higher resonance and a deeper sense of connection than possibly 10,000 people that had bought a previous album of mine. Right. So the whole question of success is one that's very slippery because it doesn't account for the qualitative experience. It's only about the quantitative experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, in a way, we could be. I think the whole industry's like this now because people are selling less records. Possibly all of the numbers are looking less for every artist. But for me, the experience with those few people is getting more profound.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's about the industry or that's about my career or what that is, but I feel kind of positive about everything.
It must be good to actually feel as though, you know, you're not expecting to have all these people like that music, or new music as such, because, you know, when you take that away of thinking about what other people are going to say about your music, and that, you tend to feel better about the music that you've written.
That's true. I mean, it still hurts my feelings if people don't like my music, and it's still, I I look forward to those moments where just my ego, just when someone's like, I've got your record and it means a lot to me. I mean, that really moves me, and I hope those experiences never end. But
Right.
at the same time, I'm not going to alter the type of music I'm making to try and engineer those experiences happening.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot of answers about it, but I'm personally, answering to a different type of calling than just trying to please as many people as possible. So you have to, I mean, I remember hearing Neil Young say, to someone, just keep your head down. And that's kind of my attitude with my work. I'm just kind of keeping my head down and doing it and working to my own agenda of what's important to me. And that's what I'm here to do.
And just another point on your album release is that your royalties are actually going to the Amazon development research, and
Yeah.
is that correct? And also maps.
Yeah, well, the two charities that the album artist royalties are going to are the Amazon Conservation Team and the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. There's a few reasons behind that. One is that the whole energy of this record was one of expansiveness and raising consciousness, so it felt that I wanted to truly stand behind that financially. It's important to kind of do things with money. Money is a symbolic, it's a symbol. It's an energetic symbol, and what we do with our money says a lot about what our values are, and I really wanted to financially align the structure of the royalties with the message of the record. Also, we're not selling as many records as we used to, and everyone I know as artists has kind of found other ways of supplementing their income rather than the amount of album sales you make. So with that in mind, I thought, well, then why not take that money that is there and do something charitable with it? Because that isn't what I'm relying on for my bread and butter. So yeah, it just felt like the right thing, and both those charities felt, really aligned with the feeling of the record, and we're both into it. And, it's somewhat of a controversial subject matter, I guess. And
yeah, because most when you do start talking psychedelics and a particular drug like that, or drugs like that, it is usually just frowned on, and they think you're possibly a little bit different in the head, and but I mean, after reading actually what this MAPS organization does, they use psychedelics in a way that it's beneficial to people who perhaps had previous drug abuse history, and they're creating a way that to use a psychedelic opens up another path to help overcome a previous addiction. Is that something that it's...
Yeah, and I mean, look, I'm personally I'm not like a massive psychedelic evangelist and feels like everyone needs to do ayahuasca, everyone needs to,
Yeah.
These are very personal decisions. But I do think that the taboo around the discussion of amplified states of consciousness is one that needs to be dealt with if we are going to move forward as a culture. Because a big problem for me that I see in our culture is that we've lost touch with the mythical and the ritualistic means of accessing these altered states that allowed us to feel connected to each other, to our communities, to our planet, and to the environment, to a sense of morality beyond just what a government tells us is right and wrong. And I think, in culture, this was always a part of young people's rites of passage to some degree, to be, like even a bar mitzvah for Jewish people, this was a ritual that at 13, a boy and a girl were taught you now have the spiritual access of an adult, into these other realms. You have the spiritual power of an adult, so it's time to begin to use that responsibly. The fact that there's no rites of passage, there's no way of dealing with the fact that these various states of consciousness are real and do affect the way we carry ourselves through the world. I think that's a real shame. And what I like most about a group like MAPS is that there's an attempt to normalize and legitimize the discussion of amplified states of consciousness, whether or not they end up having MDMA treating people with post-traumatic stress from the Afghan war. Very interesting, not ultimately my passion, but I do think it's a step in the right direction of saying how many of the problems we're dealing with in the world here are actually problems of consciousness rather than problems of, say, chemical imbalances, so we need to be prescribing medicines, or or just like antidepressants, or putting people in prison when they're criminals. And, we have all these ways of dealing with problems. None of them look at them as problems of consciousness. And I'm interested in the fact that maps, that does seem to be their major driving force.
Right, okay.
It's beautiful now that you can actually go and take that incentive to want to see opening of those channels for people. I think amidst a world that's very, in a sense, controlled and dictated by a lot of societal standards and views, that it really, right now, what a lot of people need is the opportunity to understand more, to see more, and to be opened up to new experiences.
And just to have the discussions, like
just like this, I suppose,
Yeah, because a lot of these things are taboo, but all great ideas began as taboo. People thought the world was flat. Whoever said it was round, that's a taboo idea. Just because things are taboo doesn't mean they're wrong. And
most great inventors were ostracized.
Exactly. And so young people are the perfect people. Even, I'm in my 30s. I'm relatively young still, though. But, the younger generations are the people that naturally have the courage to challenge the taboos. And so it's a beautiful thing if they can harness that courage and take it in a direction of really challenging the status quo, and opening up to various other ways of looking at what our existence could be all about.
Yeah, that's pretty much where our band stands as well, and that's something we want to try and continue to do as a band. I think, and as people, I think that's really important to us, is to just continue on that journey of exploring ourselves and trying to understand the world around us, and in turn hoping to share a little bit of that with other people.
Great.
So, just one final question, Ben. When are you releasing this album, and will you be coming back to Australia to play something for us?
Yeah, it comes out in March, end of March 2013, and I'm going to be doing some shows the beginning of April, first 2 weeks of April, but the shows themselves are, I'm still working it out, but they're going to be much more like meditative events. They're not going to be rock concerts.
Cool. Awesome.
There's going to be a variety of different music and devotional music, and hopefully we're going to incorporate to some degree, indigenous culture into the events, and that there'll be events of really people to come and experience consciousness together in a not a corny way, to actually have... Because it's interesting, like it changed the last few years, but New Age culture traditionally has had a bit of a corny aesthetic, and I'm seeing now more people with a variety, like the kind of music you guys are into. You would never have associated that with sort of the conscious community or these types of ideas, So, and same with indie rock, it was always just like Enya music, So I think now it's kind of interesting that you can use all these various types of aesthetic to help people, to invite them to an event that's really about opening up and being present together. So I'm just putting it together, but it'll be in the first 2 weeks of April around Australia.
Excellent.
Awesome, man. And any final words before we cut off?
People can follow me on Twitter at Ben Lee Music, and when's this going to go up, this video?
I suppose that sort of depends on the both of us, my friend. we can decide. We can
put it up. Put it up sooner than later. If they want, they can pre-order the record and see a video. See a video where I explain the album a little bit, and they can hear some snippets at pledgemusic.com/Ben Lee. And aside from that, well done on what you guys are doing, and I'll see you guys somewhere soon.
Yeah,
thank you very much again, Ben.
Thank you very much, Ben. I really appreciate your time, and we definitely hope to speak to you again soon.
And if not, meet you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
No worries, thank you.